Imagine this. It's December 7th, 1941. The Japanese fleet is moving toward Hawaii. Pearl Harbor is still quiet, the sun is rising, and sailors are just starting their Sunday morning. But in this alternate timeline, something impossible is waiting inside the harbor. Not battleships from the 1930s, not cruisers or destroyers, but a modern U.S. Navy supercarrier, one of those giant floating cities we know today, loaded with F-35 stealth fighters, guided missiles, advanced radar, and defenses that the people of 1941 could never even dream of. So the big question is, what if a modern carrier fought at Pearl Harbor? How would history change? Would the Japanese attack fail? Would World War II look completely different? Today, we're going to break it all down, setting the stage. To understand the difference, let's quickly look at the real history. On December 7th, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor with over 350 planes, bombers, torpedo planes, and fighters. They targeted the U.S. Pacific Fleet's battleships, sinking or damaging 8 of them and killing over 2,400 Americans. But here's the thing. In 1941, the U.S. didn't have the advanced carriers and jets we know today. Their planes were slower, guns were less accurate, and radar was still very basic. Now imagine instead of the USS Arizona or the USS Oklahoma, Pearl Harbor had the USS Gerald Ford, the world's most advanced carrier. This ship is nuclear-powered, carries over 75 high-tech aircraft, has missile defense systems, and can launch a wave of jets in minutes. It's not even a fair comparison. It's like putting a Formula One race car on the same track as a horse and buggy. First contact, Japanese attack begins. So let's run the simulation. The Japanese fleet launches its planes toward Oahu. In real history, the Americans didn't see them until it was almost too late. But with a modern carrier at Pearl Harbor, the story changes right away. A carrier like the USS Ford has advanced radar and satellite-linked systems. Even without satellites in 1941, its onboard radar would spot incoming planes hundreds of miles away. Alarms would sound long before the first bomb fell. The carrier could immediately scramble F-35 stealth fighters into the sky. These jets can climb faster, fly higher, and outgun anything the Japanese brought, like the Mitsubishi Zero. The Zero was deadly in 1941, but against a stealth jet firing radar-guided missiles, it's no contest. The Japanese planes would start dropping from the sky before they even reached Pearl Harbor. At the same time, the carrier's defensive systems, like the Aegis radar, CIWS Gatling guns, and surface-to-air missiles, would create a wall of firepower around the harbor. Torpedo planes diving low, shot down, bombers trying to line up, blown out of the air. Even if dozens of planes got through, the carrier's deck is armored, its firefighting systems are automatic, and damage control is light years beyond 1941. Counterattack. Now here's where things get really wild. A modern carrier isn't just a floating airport, it's a mobile strike force. Once the first wave of Japanese planes is shot down, the American commander wouldn't just sit and wait. The F-35s and F/A-18 Super Hornets would head straight for the Japanese fleet. Remember, in 1941, Japan's carriers were only lightly defended. No radar-guided missiles, no stealth, no long-range anti-air systems. A squadron of stealth jets armed with precision bombs and anti-ship missiles would wipe out the Japanese carriers in hours. Think about it. In World War II, sinking a carrier took dozens of planes, torpedoes, and a lot of luck. In this alternate history, a single modern jet could launch a guided missile from miles away and sink a ship with pinpoint accuracy. In short, the Japanese strike force would go from predator to prey almost instantly. Instead of crippling the U.S. Pacific Fleet, they'd lose their carriers before they could even retreat. The bigger picture. So what happens to history after this battle? Well, the U.S. would wake up to war just like in real life, but with a massive difference. Pearl Harbor wouldn't be remembered as a tragedy, but as a stunning American victory. The Japanese Navy would be shattered on day one of the Pacific War. Without carriers, Japan couldn't project power across the ocean. Their plans to dominate Southeast Asia would collapse. The U.S. would have the upper hand immediately. World War II in the Pacific might end years earlier. Maybe Japan never captures the Philippines. Maybe battles like Midway or Guadalcanal never even happen because Japan has no carrier fleet left. And here's something even crazier. Seeing a futuristic warship like that in 1941 would blow everyone's minds. Imagine Japanese survivors describing a ship that launches invisible jets, shoots down planes with radar, and sinks carriers from over the horizon. It would feel like science fiction. Even America's allies, Britain, the Soviet Union, would be shocked at the technology. It might even change how the whole world views post-war power, the paradox. But let's step back for a second. This scenario is fun to imagine, but it also creates a paradox. If a modern carrier existed in 1941, it wouldn't just be one ship. Technology doesn't appear in a vacuum. That means jet engines, guided missiles, nuclear power, computers, all of that would have to exist decades earlier. And if it did, the entire World War would look unrecognizable. Germany with modern submarines, Britain with advanced radar, the Soviet Union with drones. The timeline would be completely rewritten. So really, dropping a modern carrier into Pearl Harbor is like putting a superhero into a boxing match. Sure, it wins, but the world around it would change in ways we can't fully predict. So what if a modern carrier fought at Pearl Harbor? The short answer, the Japanese attack would fail spectacularly. The US would crush the strike force, probably sink the enemy fleet, and World War II in the Pacific would play out very differently. But the deeper answer is this: history isn't just about technology. It's about timing, strategy, and the balance of power. In 1941, battleships were still seen as kings of the ocean. Carriers proved their worth during the war. Today they are the ultimate symbol of naval power. Dropping one back in time shows just how far we've come and how much one weapon can change the course of history. Thanks for joining me on this What If journey. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history and alternate scenarios, and let me know in the comments, what other what-if battles should we explore? Until next time, keep imagining, because sometimes the past is even more interesting when we rewrite it.